welcome to Between Two Ellens. We are back. We took a small, short break after session. My name is Ellen Hefner, representative in House District 87.
And I am Ellen Pogmiller, representative for House District 88. And today we are thrilled to have with us Anden Bull. She's the Chief Programming Officer and General Counsel for Palomar. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
So first, before we talk about Palomar, maybe just introduce yourself a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, my name is Anden Bull. Like you said, in my title is General Counsel, so I am an attorney by training. I was born and raised in Oklahoma City and just really feel passionate about our community. And after law school, I just realized I really wanted to use my education and abilities to help people. So I was excited when I found my way to Palomar in 2017.
Well, good. Then go into what Palomar is, with everything, being from Oklahoma City, and then tell us what Palomar does for Oklahoma City.
Sure. So Palomar is Oklahoma City's Family Justice Center. A Family Justice Center is actually a model that was developed in San Diego, California. And so what that model entails is bringing together all of the services that a survivor of domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, child and elder abuse may need, bringing all those resources together into one location for their survivors. Our founder, Kim Garrett Funk, was originally from Reno, Nevada, and came to Oklahoma City and became the first ever victim advocate at the Oklahoma City Police Department. Mm-hmm. And what she saw was that when she was giving resources to families and telling them to go here for counseling or here for advocacy and here for your legal services, that no one actually engaged with these services. And she also found that these service providers weren't speaking to each other. And so she thought there must be a better way. And that's when she found the Family Justice Center model and brought in Alliance for Hope from California. And they did a strategic planning session in 2015 to see, does Oklahoma City need this? And the resounding answer was yes. And the founder of the Alliance even said, Oklahoma City has some of the most traumatized survivors that I've ever seen. So we are lucky that the police department and the community really invested in this model, and it's really proven to be successful in a short amount of time.
And so what year was that around what year the Family Justice Center?
The Palomar started?
Palomar started, yeah.
We opened in February of 2017, so we're coming up on 10 years next February, which is hard to believe.
With a new building coming.
Correct.
With MAPS dollars? Is that MAPS money?
Yes, so we were very fortunate that in 2019, the city selected us to be one of 4 philanthropic causes in the MAPS 4 project. And so the building is a MAPS project that's been funded by MAPS and the city. And so we are just, again, so grateful that the community and the city have really embraced Palomar and this model and what we do for survivors.
So with the additions at Palomar, what services will you be able to house in the facility?
I was saying today, she's large and in charge. Just for context, our current facility is about 27,000 square feet, and our new facility is 72,000 square feet. Gosh. So a very big jump in size for us. So we have an expanded children's area that's going to be amazing. We're adding about 18 therapy rooms, so we'll really be able to ramp up the therapy services that we have. And right now, we're just bursting at the seams. So we have about 12 client rooms, and I think we're going up to 18 of those as well. And so we'll just be able to see more people in real time. Palomar is a complete walk-in facility, so we really just don't know what the day will bring. We may see 20 people one day, we may see 50 people one day. And so having more space and more flexible space will allow us to quickly wrap around survivors and make sure that we're seeing everybody that walks through our doors.
When we talk about services, when you have a nonprofit and, you have all these things for people to come to, we forget when it's someone maybe with disability or someone who's going through trauma, how hard it is to even get to that door.
Right.
So going through that one door, and then you have a navigator that helps them through legal and to get maybe clothes and to look for a job, and maybe you need someplace for their dog to go because, and so it's one of those things that someone who needs help can just go and get the help that they need instead of going, I'm too tired, I can't do this.
Right. Yes, it's really amazing to be able to see that we can provide all of those things in one location. And I tell a story a lot of, there was a client that I've worked with who her boss could see what was going on in her house, but she didn't even really recognize it as domestic violence. And so her boss was like, "You're going to Palomar today." She walked through our doors and she didn't even know what she needed. And so sometimes that's the case too, is you just are so overwhelmed and in so much trauma that you don't even know what you need. And we can also help with that and walk alongside those survivors as well.
I was at an event this week, and part of it was on the criminal justice system and Diversion Hub, which is a program in Oklahoma City. But one of the things one of the people there was talking about was that the women, she was an attorney, the women that she had served through the county court system, almost every single one of them had a story of domestic violence in their past.
Absolutely.
And I was like just stunned by that story anecdotally, but I knew she had served in that capacity for many years. So to me, it was kind of past anecdotal. It wasn't one story. It was the story she heard over and over again. So can you talk a little bit about how you also, while you bring people in, but also how are we trying to prevent future domestic violence?
Sure. So we do that in a lot of different ways. Like you said, there's a statistic that always sticks with me, especially when people ask, like, why is this continuing to be such a problem in Oklahoma? And it's that 78% of children who witness violence in the home will go on to either experience violence or perpetrate violence themselves without positive intervention. And so I think while we're serving survivors in crisis, it's also really important that we're serving their children as well. And so we've invested in that in a lot of different ways. We have our Camp Hope program that we do every summer and throughout the year. We also, in our children's sanctuary, every child navigator is a trust-based relational intervention practitioner. So while it looks like they're playing and having a fun time, which they are, but they're also connecting with the children and becoming a safe adult, and then also making sure that we're addressing any needs that the children may have. So I think that holistic family approach is the way that we break generational cycles of violence and stop this from continuing to explode out of control in Oklahoma.
As a female, I know that, I had a strong mentor. My mom was a good example of being a mother and being a wife. And when I have spoke to a lot of young women, they don't have that. And some of them that end up in prison, they've never had that. And so at least, having as a child, if you see that trauma, you could at least understand what it is to be a good example. Is there some of that for our young women too?
Absolutely. One of the interesting programs that we did, so early on we partnered with the HALO project and implemented their version of Making Sense of Your Worth for our survivors, which really started out of foster care. But what we saw was that, and it's all about parenting through hard things, but what we saw was that our moms were also children from hard places, and that we had to address their trauma and their childhood hardships before we could even get to, okay, now how do we become a strong parent for our child that's experienced hard things? So I think that was one of our big early on lessons, was that what was an 8-week program became a 16-week program, because we had to help mom first before we could even get to, now how do we become a better parent?
And then 16 weeks just scratches the surface. But then even still, there is that aggressor. It's still there while the mom is trying to take care of the kids or pet or themselves. How do you support women that are going through this and they still have someone that is really trying to cause them to get off that path?
I mean, we do that in a lot of different ways. We have our long-term programming that we work with clients that's all about self-identified goals. And so that could be anything that a client may be working on. And so I think a lot of those barriers to leaving an unhealthy relationship that we don't think about are like housing and financial stability and your pets and things like that. So rather than us define these long-term goals for clients, we ask them, what are your goals and how do we help you find safety and stability, and what does that look like for you? And really let them guide the way, and then we are there to support them in just whatever that looks like.
That's great.
So, you know, legislatively, I think each session, domestic violence is an area that we try to address at the state capitol. What are some, you know, legislative barriers that you see or ways that we've supported the work that you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think there were some really great strides made this session. So that was amazing to see the GPS monitoring bill go through, to see some more stronger enforcements on the felonies. I think that even after this session and what I've seen over the years and working in this field is that we really, in a lot of ways, still see domestic violence as a private issue in the home. And it's not treated that, like it's treated as such in the criminal justice system of this is between intimate partners and it's not our business. And so I think we need to continue to make strides to show perpetrators that this is a serious crime and we will treat it as so.
A couple things that I thought has been different within like the last, maybe it's been recent, about 5 years maybe, and maybe Palomar's, of course, has had a lot of this for, a lot of people were silent about that, about when they would be, the domestic abuse that they would have. Taking that legislation and needing help, I had women show up all the time talking to legislators about what happened to them. And I think sometimes if it doesn't happen to you, you don't really know about it. But that was a surprise to me. Do you see that change where victims or those that have been abused are wanting to talk about it and want to change it for others?
Absolutely. So just in the last 2 years, we've reignited our Voices Committee, which kind of fell by the wayside with COVID. But that's our Survivor Advocacy Committee. So they're all survivors that are at least a year past their situation. And it's not necessarily a support group or about what happened to them, but it's about using their voice to create change for the future. And they've even created their own legislative subcommittee. They've done advocacy days at the Capitol. And so I've just been so amazed and proud of their strength and their willingness to use their stories and their experiences to advocate for change. It's just been really amazing.
Well, I need their help. I'm going to have an interim study on it. There's much more to do. And I know that this session, it was very hard. I would say out of all the bills that I've ever done, was so hard to educate and to have those conversations and get people to ask questions and give those sort of top lines of the misunderstanding or the misinformation out there about domestic violence. What's one of those things that, and with the interim study, we're going to go through a lot.
Yeah.
There's some that we talked about that, you know, I would love you to come and talk with when there's a divorce or things like that. But what's some of that misinformation out there that you see that you guys are really trying to, you know, to get the truth out or just get what the reality is of it?
Absolutely. I think the biggest one is that this is happening to those people or in that neighborhood, or I've heard people say, I don't know anyone that's experienced this. And I just always say, like, you do. Statistically in Oklahoma, 1 in 6 households is experiencing domestic violence. So I always tell people to, like, think about your street and think about your block. And 1 in 6 of those houses that you can see is more than likely experiencing some form of violence. And it's happening in public schools, it's happening in private schools, it's happening in gated communities, it's happening in our poverty-stricken communities. It's not just any one sect of our community. It's our friends, it's our neighbors, it's our family. And so I think getting people to understand that, because until they've had to help somebody that they care about or have seen someone that they care about go through this, they like to believe that it's not happening to people that they know.
It has to happen to them or someone they care about. I mean, and truthfully, that's sometimes what happens, because it is, you feel so private or maybe not even embarrassed, but if it happens to you, I'm sure that there's a lot of feelings like I deserve it.
Absolutely. And yeah, isolation and shame are two of the most common tactics that perpetrators will use. So I also think a lot of times people think about the bruises and the physical injuries when really domestic violence is any form of coercive control that one partner is exerting over another. And so the isolation and shame and utilizing resources, all of those things play into it. And it's so much bigger than just the physical acts of violence.
Do you all, in your service area for Palomar, do you serve just Oklahoma County, or who all do you serve?
That's a little complicated question. Palomar itself, we will serve anyone that walks through our doors to the best of our ability. Where it gets tricky is that some of our partner agencies are geographically limited. So, for example, a person from like Del City maybe can't make a report with OCPD. So we will do our best, and we will serve anyone that walks through the doors, but we may be a little bit limited by the partners and what they're able to offer.
Yeah, it is really even that story of just like cities and how, I know Del City is its own police force, its own,
Right.
But it's right there next to Oklahoma City. And like, even that makes it way more complicated. I'm thinking more like Shawnee when I asked that question, not our next door neighbors in the same county.
I'm very hopeful because I do think that, I'll believe in change every day. And I think that there's, with Palomar being that footprint in Oklahoma City now for 10 years with this big, she's big, you said, that to help take care of more and to help more and to at least visibly it shows what we're doing. But I do have hope that we're going to make changes. What's one thing that you think that is something immediate that we could do, or something long term, something that you think is something that maybe we haven't thought about?
I always tell people one really small thing, and I'd say to your listeners too, that you can do is just like following Palomar on social media and sharing posts. Like we said, it's such a isolating experience to be in a domestic violence relationship. So I think that when the community and when we show support and show that you're a supportive person, that you don't know the impact that may have on someone in your life. And so I've shared posts of Palomars on my personal social media and then had people message me, be like, that really resonated with me. How do I get help? Or I have a sister going through this. That really resonated. How do I get help? So I think there's even small ways that we can show our support and in the community that may have an impact that you wouldn't even think about.
Nice. Yeah. Are there volunteer opportunities?
Yes, so we have a whole host of volunteer opportunities. So we do bi-monthly service events. Those are typically on a Saturday. So those are normally some pretty easy things like sorting donations or things like that. And then also 4 times a year, we do a more intensive 24-hour training. And so that's for individuals that want to work directly with clients. And so we've tried to create a whole host of volunteer opportunities. Obviously, working with survivors of domestic violence, it gets a little complex, which is why we require the intensive training. But again, we have those bi-monthly service events that are open to anyone.
Great. Well, it sounds like there's a lot for everyone to at least help and get involved with. And I'm happy you said sharing is the easiest with about Palomar. Well, we've come to that time where we always ask our guests. Did you forget about that?
I kind of forgot we did that. It's been a while.
Well, we have asked our guests to ask us a question since we've just peppered you with questions. If you have a question for the Ellens.
I love it. Actually, I was thinking about this on the way over, and it was so hot. So I was curious, what is your favorite summertime activity?
Oh, in Oklahoma. Let me try to think. I went shopping for mint chocolate chip ice cream today because it was so hot. I was like, I need something that's refreshing. But
that's really great.
Eating sugar and sweet things that are cold feels like a go-to in the summer.
I don't know. I'd say vacation would be a really good idea away, but that would be really nice. I love to row, so being out there in the heat and on the river is always fun. So that's a good summertime activity. But if I'm trying to stay cool, and if I didn't want to work, I'd probably just take some time to read inside, maybe.
Nice.
That would be it. But anyway, well, thank you so much for coming, and hopefully I can get your help this summer.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate all the help that you've given before, especially to us. We can't do this without really great, smart people that help find those holes that we have to fill and to help others. So thank you so much for being on here today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on, guys.